impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no
Let the good times roll. Kawasaki for the hit.
Well, that was underwhelming. Can you hit the? Oh, and I got to turn my own light on. There we go. Ha ha. All right, great. Okay, guys, sorry about that aborted trailer we just had. That did work when I tested it like 45 minutes ago. Not sure what happened there. Hopefully that does not bode ill for the other sound stuff this evening. But we got to get started, even though I worked my butt off on that trailer. So let me just put in the correct code. It's one of those nights. Okay. Okay, we're unmuted. Okay, that was the trailer, didn't work. LXQ3, we're in LXQ3. All right, welcome and announcements. Welcome to Nerd Night number 43, Perception and Reception. It's up behind me there. Thank you. Nerd Night is the, actually, are there any first timers here tonight, or is it all old hand? First timers, hands up. I can't actually see, the lights are right in my face. I see someone holding their cell phone up. I don't know if that counts. But I am obligated contractually to tell you that Nerd Night Tokyo is the local franchise of a global speaking event. And there are Nerd Nights all over the world. And every month we host 3 speakers who talk about something in their field of expertise or interest. This can be science communication talks, but also talks about art, humanities, activism, or even weird hobbies, as we'll discover tonight. Important to note, there is booze. Please buy it. We're still figuring things out with this venue, and drink sales definitely help our negotiating position. And you also may have noticed we're rebooting after a really long hiatus. If you can help us out on social media, talking about us there, retweeting our posts, you want to live tweet stuff. If you want to if you want to like live stream some of it, we're live streaming this, but if you want to live stream it, I don't care. Knock yourselves out. That would be great. All right, hit the space bar. What? Yeah.
Post pictures of you on social media?
Post pictures of me? Yes. I don't know why you'd want to, yeah, but sure. No problem. I am a public figure. All right. So can you hit, Yoji, can you hit the next slide for me, please? I'm doing what the speakers, I told the speakers not to do. I'm like looking at the thing. Our next event is on November 18th. And if you want to speak at a future Nerd Night event, contact a team member. I tell everybody to raise their hands, but I hope maybe you can see them better than I can standing in the spotlight. So team members, hands up. They're around the room. Just talk to any of those. They will point you in the right direction. Next slide. We have beakers for sale, Nerd Night branded beakers. You can put hot drinks in them. You can put cold drinks in them. If you do put boiling hot drinks in them, just be a little bit careful when you touch them, okay? Because it's glass. You could burn your hand. They're for sale at the bar. We got a few there. Next slide. That's not the next slide that was on my list. Oh, right. That's fine. Tonight, we will once again bring you 3 smart speakers. First off, Tuuka will talk to us about virtual reality avatars, since we'll all eventually need them. Then Jens, after threatening to do so, will give us a talk about synthetic sounds. And finally, Makoto will introduce us to the hobby of collecting phone sims from around the world. That I'm really excited. I'm looking forward. That's going to be really interesting, I think. I am ready to be nerded out. How about you guys? Oh. I'm not going to do the annoying thing. I can't hear you. No, because you guys were nice and loud. It was nice. After each talk, there's going to be a quick Q&A. Please wait for the microphone to come to you before you ask your question, because we are live streaming, and we want the people on the live stream to be able to hear, because they couldn't hear the trailer either, to be able to hear your questions at the very least. Yes, so that was the slide that I needed before. Okay, they were out of order. I will talk about this at intermission. We're short on time. So give me the next slide, please. It should be. There we go. No. Oh, no. Next slide. There we go. Tuuka Takala is going. Okay, so here's the bio. He has been working on virtual reality research and development for more than 15 years. He just arrived in Tokyo the day before yesterday. From his hometown of Helsinki, Finland, where he is the chairman of the Finnish Virtual Reality Association. And I'll tell you, having spent a few days in Helsinki in February, I think I can understand the need for virtual reality in Finland. I'm kidding, it was lovely. Cold, but lovely. And dark. Dr. Takala received his doctorate from Aalto University and was also a postdoctoral fellow and visiting scholar at Waseda University here in Tokyo for 3 years. So you're fluent now, right?
No.
He is currently a visiting scholar at Aalto University. So, without any, do you have the clicker? Did someone give you the clicker?
No, they didn't.
I will go get the clicker for you. That's my job now. I pass off the clicker. There's the clicker. And can I get a round of applause for Tuuka?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm going to talk to you about VR avatars. Let me see, do I have to press this, or does someone has to change?
We got it. Let me control this. Find the button in the dark. Give it a second. Here it comes.
Yeah, okay, great. So yeah, this topic is really a blessing for me, because since no matter how much this presentation is impacted by my jet lag and how much I have to read from my notes, which I have to do a lot, at least you get to see some interesting photos and videos. So here's an overview of my talk. Let's just get straight to business. So what are avatars? Some people might associate avatars with these guys. But no, I'm not talking about James Cameron's Blue guys. Instead, I will discuss avatars in virtual reality context. These kind of avatars are mainly used for social VR applications, which are basically massive online multiplayer VR games, with the focus often being in communication. Sometimes these VR playgrounds are referred as the metaverse. Many of you might know what avatar means in the context of video games, online worlds, and social media. The meaning is same when it comes to virtual reality. An avatar is the virtual body of the user, which includes the graphical representation, among other things. Here are some key reasons on when and why you use avatars. Firstly, avatars increase presence because you will be more than just a floating eyeball in the virtual world. Secondly, avatars can enhance storytelling because you won't just act as the protagonist, you embody their flesh. Thirdly, avatars offer interesting opportunities in stepping into somebody else's shoes with applications in both entertainment and more serious domains. Finally, avatars can even affect cognitive performance in certain visual motor tasks. So here is personal compelling reasons to work with VR avatars. They enable me to perform movie-like martial arts. This is my work from 2 years back. I created this kind of prototype for doing mixed martial arts in VR, where you can try various techniques and utilize your whole body. And yeah, it's not reality, it's more like movie magic style. But yeah, like full body techniques, kicking, grappling, even ground fighting. I mean, it looks ridiculous, but then you try to small window. Oh yeah, I hurt my leg there. I don't think I break any furniture or anything like that, but I think I had a small fracture in my foot. So yeah. So yeah, there's I know people kind of features of the control, like yeah, the setup but the setup I like VR headset. Yeah, okay. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so many of you are already familiar with how avatars can be created in video games. If you have ever played Nintendo Wii or Switch, you might remember creating a so-called me avatar for yourself. It's quite common that you can customize everything from the avatar's looks to their clothing. And here you can see how avatar creation tools look in video games. These kind of tools can be used to create avatars that look like celebrities, for example, or complete joke avatars like this fine specimen here. Yeah, this was from some wrestling game. I don't remember the name, but yeah, there's a lot of options for customization. Okay, so yeah, the avatar creation tools are very versatile and flexible in video games, as we can also see from these examples. Conversely, avatar creation tools in virtual reality applications are usually more limited at the moment. In many cases, this is due to smaller budgets, but it's mystery why the metas, like these are all from Meta, why they are so, well, limited, I would say. But in avatar customization is most commonly found in social VR applications. But right now the resulting avatars tend to be a bit bland and boring. The solution to boring and limited avatar creation systems is to make your avatar from scratch. Some social VR applications like VRChat support importing such homebrew avatars. Here are just a few examples of custom-built avatars. As you can see, they are not limited by, well, anything really. You can become the anthropomorphic bovine furry that you always wanted to be, no problem. If you don't have 3D modeling skills, you can download existing avatars that are available online, sometimes free, sometimes for a price. Or you could even hire a 3D artist to create a custom avatar for you. Here's what VRChat looks like.
Dude, I don't know. That's a question you gotta ask yourself. What is this game?
Yo, are you still smoking?
Yeah, this dude still hasn't finished this.
Oh no!
Oh no!
The volume was a little low, but that's okay. I mean, it's just, VRChat is completely bonkers. It's fun.
She scans her face from different angles with a neutral.
Can we get the voice volume up?
Then spends another minute and a half making a variety of. That's really all there is
There
to it.
should be like.
Hi guys, my 3D avatar is ready for use in my phone or VR. It just took a few hours to generate after my scan, and the team's working on making that processing a whole lot faster.
Well, okay, that doesn't matter. I mean, what they were saying in this video. So, like, this is like recent research from Meta Reality Labs, and you could use your phone to create a very realistic avatar. And obviously, your avatar can have a high resemblance of your the real you. And these kind of photorealistic avatars are usually used in like telepresence applications. But yeah. And the enabling technology for controlling avatars is motion capture, where the pose of different body parts are tracked in real time. So on the left side here, we see a common full body tracking setup where so-called tracking pucks have been attached to the user's torso and extremities. Currently, most consumer VR systems only track the motion of the user's head and hands, which means that the movement of the user's lower body can't be accurately conveyed into the virtual realm. At best, the lower body movement can be guesstimated, as you saw in this video. For avatars with full body tracking, you need the previously mentioned tracking pucks or mocap suit as seen here. So yeah, this work is from 2018. I made this prototype to experiment with physics-based interaction between the user and the virtual world. The idea was to test out not only the avatar, how the avatar affects the world, but also how much should the world affect the avatar when there are no haptics. So this is all in a physics simulation where both the virtual world and the avatar are kind of affected. So yeah, this work was actually done here in Tokyo at Waseda University. A majority of my work with VR avatars is building novel prototypes like these and just having fun with them.
Damn, scared me, Mikey J.
I'm talking to you on my end.
This guy is. Oh
my god.
What the fuck?
I see, but I don't.
I always feel.
Again, this was from VRChat. I mean, there's a lot of fun YouTube videos with this. So acquiring an avatar that works for you is the initial hurdle, but the avatar alone is just a pretty picture unless you're able to embody it. This is where several challenges lie, both related to technology and human psychology. So some definitions. The noun embodiment comes directly from the verb embody, which has the meaning of inhabiting a body or a part of body. I've been using the following juxtaposition to further illustrate embodiment. Some transhumanists and meditation practitioners have a goal of transcending beyond their physical bodies. Meanwhile, the goal for VR enthusiasts is to achieve as tangible virtual body as possible. The sense of embodiment is an important concept when it comes to VR avatars. It has the following 3 subcomponents that I will go through. The first subcomponent, sense of self-location, refers to the body being located spatially as your own body. For example, a diminished sense of self-location occurs during an out-of-body experience. Well, I don't know, not many of you maybe have that kind of experience, me neither. But basically, I mean, you want to have a first-person view to your avatar in VR. Secondly, the sense of agency is an important subcomponent of embodiment. Agency means that you can control your own actions. If you can't control the movement of your body, you're lacking agency. So think of people who have had a stroke or who suffer from involuntary tics. So the third subcomponent is the sense of body ownership. And this refers to the identification with a body or a body part as your own. And people are quite flexible in this regard, as they can feel very strong body ownership over prosthetic limbs and even artificial objects like tools that look nothing like human body parts. A famous example of body ownership illusion is the rubber hand illusion, which shows that people can be manipulated to consider a fake rubber hand as their own. This is also a fun little party trick for which you need a realistic-looking rubber hand. So the study participant is shown a rubber hand in front of them as their own, while the real hand is hidden from their sight. Then the real and fake hands are synchronously touched by the study organizer. This creates an illusion of the rubber hand belonging to the participants. And often in these kind of studies, someone then pokes the rubber hand with a knife or something, and the user response is recorded. And in this clip, the participant is obviously startled when the guy jumps him, like anyone would be startled by that. But you can see that the participant only pulls back his left hand because he feels like that one is under attack. This is another cool trick where you can make your limb feel like it has disappeared. But unfortunately, this one requires specially built hardware, so you can't really perform this at home. I've included a video link here that has the explanation, and you can check it out yourself if you're interested. I should also mention that the avatar's virtual body proportions can differ greatly from the real body. So the avatar can be thinner or fatter, for example. And we tend to be very flexible when it comes to being able to embody different types of fantastical avatars. Extra limbs, crisscrossed body part control, amplified motion. Only the imagination is limit here. Next one, and this is basically my recipe for achieving and maintaining avatar embodiment. In short, you want to utilize tracking, motion tracking with high accuracy and fidelity, full body capture if possible. Then you just scale the avatar's individual body parts to match the size of the user. That's the most straightforward approach. You can relax some of these constraints that I have explained here, but I won't go into details. I will very briefly mention that the avatar's appearance can affect the user's behavior. And this is dubbed as the Proteus effect, which I guess is a reference to some Greek tale. I don't remember how it goes, but anyway, there's many studies on this, and like one of them was like for example, people acted smarter if their avatar looked like Einstein. So, which kind of sounds funny, but you know. And psychologists, like people who do psychological studies, are interested in avatars because they allow people to simulate being of different sex or ethnicity. there are a bunch of studies like this. But I'm not sure if it's a smart move to try to be different ethnicity in a social VR. Like especially if you try to do some kind of voice impression or something, probably not a good idea. And anyway, because VR avatars allows you to experience being someone else, some people thought VR as empathy machine. It's good to bear in mind, however, that studies show that embodying avatar of different ethnicity can change implicit racial bias in either direction. So it can either decrease, depending on setting, it can decrease racial bias or it can also increase it. Right, I think I'm on schedule, so here's some links if you're like really into avatars and you want to learn more. These are mostly academic stuff, and you can also, if you search for, if you want to see just funny stuff, search in YouTube for VR chat full body avatar. You get a lot of, I don't remember what the guy's name, it was something like, I think it was Chris Quits Reality. That was his YouTube channel. There's a lot of fun stuff there. Okay, I will finish my presentation with another party trick, the Pinocchio illusion. You can try this out now or later if you want to. You need a total of 3 people where one person experiences the illusion. So the experiencer is on the right here. They need to have their eyes closed. And then there's another person in front of them facing the same direction, and the experiencer is touching their nose. Meanwhile, there's this third person helping who is touching the experiencer's nose while moving the experiencer's finger synchronously touching the other guy's nose. I haven't tried this myself, but supposedly at least some people feel that they have like a really long nose. So you're welcome to try right now. Okay, yeah, I guess that's it for me. If you have any questions or something.
Yeah, hooray! Hooray! All right, we got any questions?
Right. Well, thank you for the presentation. I'll probably ask you what you think about, like you gave us a recipe for embodiment, and do you think we need like an integration with other senses? So if I try to lift, say like an object in front of me, I might be able to see that in virtual reality, but I might not feel it. Do you think we need that for a proper, recipe of embodiment, or is that, overachieving, or I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps. And like the sense of touch is the biggest kind of missing modality in VR right now. That's a really, you can't really achieve like full immersion unless you are able to touch things. Like I think the pioneer of VR said that you want to have like virtual handcuffs that can bind you and a virtual gun that can kill you, which is kind of weird, but like, yeah, that's what he said. But anyway, yes, but it's really difficult technically to do like super realistic haptics. So right now, most of the haptics are these kind of vibrotactile, these little buzzers that like you have in a smartphone, and to have like a wall or something that pushes back when you're pushing it, that's like really, there are systems like that, but they're crazy expensive and they don't work that well. So you can get like immersion embodiment even with just like the visuals, like when your visuals are, but any kind of haptics helps. So yeah, until we get the full experience, it could take decades, of course, but yeah.
Hi, thanks again for coming. I guess I have two questions. The one is kind of self-serving. Your favorite Hollywood franchise to use avatars to date? And then my second question is, I get motion sickness when I use a VR headset, and I know they've been working on that, but is that, do you know, like, what causes that, or do people that make, that are developing avatars try and work with the hardware to kind of minimize that issue?
Yeah, so my favorite movie with avatars is what you said. I guess Matrix. That has a lot of like the creators of Matrix. There's also a lot of like philosophical aspects there. It's very interesting. But yeah, I would say Matrix. Second question is about the motion sickness. It really depends on the application. So application like where there's a lot of virtual movement, like if you're on a roller coaster, where you're kind of what you're seeing visually doesn't match your vestibular like sense, like your acceleration and stuff in your inner ear. That mismatch is probably the biggest reason for cyber sickness. So you want to avoid applications where you're on a roller coaster or you're using a joystick to move your character. You probably want to, if there's a choice between locomotion, you want to use the teleport locomotion. But yeah, there are other factors like the fact that the lenses have fixed like distance where the focus is, and there's not you can't focus at different distances right now. So there's a lot of like eye strain issues. But yeah, just choose your applications carefully, and you want to have a high frame rate and so on and so on.
Hi, thanks. So for Androids and for some early three-dimensional computer graphics, there's what they call the uncanny valley, right? Does this also happen with 3D avatars? Like, when I see Mark Zuckerberg's 3D avatar for Meta, that looks to me kind of creepy, but then Mark Zuckerberg looks kind of creepy anyway. So I'm not sure. Does the fact that there's a real human behind it, does it actually change your perception of that, or does the uncanny valley still occur? Yeah, the uncanny valley is very much a thing in VR and video games as well. Yeah, I mean, they're getting better at it, but it takes a lot of money and effort. Like there's some video games do stuff like they record the face on video, and then they kind of project it on the 3D model. The game LA Noir did this, and there's techniques like that kind of improve it. But yeah, it's a thing also in VR.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. So I'm wondering, compared to VR and augmented reality, if you have in VR a sense of presence, for example, for another avatar, do you think that if we place like the virtual environment behind the avatar and put like a real environment like this room, for instance, and put a virtual avatar, would it increase a sense of presence, you think, because there's some more reality around it, or it wouldn't change anything? Do you have any idea?
Could you repeat the question?
So imagine that here we do this virtual environment with a virtual 3D representation of everything that will look like a big uncanny, like everything. And you put the avatars, everybody here is an avatar, but instead of actually having an environment that is simulated, we use augmented reality glasses. We still see the real 3D avatars, but the background is actually realistic.
Right, so AR, avatars in AR.
Yeah, versus avatar in VR in a way.
If there's a difference?
Yes, you feel, is there a difference in terms of sense of presence from the others, or not at all? You think it wouldn't change anything?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Obviously, if you do stuff like telepresence, and if it's done really well, then it can be difficult to distinguish between. So it might be that, yeah, it might be that the AR I mean, it depends on so many things, like what kind of glasses you're using and how well the avatar is made and how well, so, I mean, yeah, I can't really say, like, depends. That's that's my best answer.
So this is related to the first question, but they talked about touch. What about smell? Is there any work on developing virtual reality for smell? It seems difficult because it's based on chemicals, but just wondering.
Yes, the olfactory sense and also like the taste, gustatory sense. It's for some reason like they do a lot of this research in Japan. So there are these prototypes where you have a headset and it like emits smells onto your nose. There used to be a device called like eye smell. I think it was like 20 years ago or something. So people have worked on this. And but yeah, I don't know, like the sense of smell and sense of taste, that's not my top missing sense. It's sense of touch is the one that personally, but I don't know, if you're really into food and culinary or just sniffing things, then maybe that's for you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So I just wondering, what is the ultimate end goal of avatars? For example, if you are in medicine, the ultimate end goal will be to cure death. So you'll have immortality, right? So what is the ultimate end goal of avatars? What do you think?
Well, I guess this is more broadly, it could be what's the end goal for VR. And I'm not really sure if there's a specific end goal. It depends on a person, but I guess people would like to have as realistic as possible, kind of like Matrix, like where you can't really tell the difference. But then people would use it for recreationally, or I guess in Star Trek, the holodeck is probably a better example because it's not a dystopian, it's more like a utopian. And there they do all kind of, they reenact like plays and book like say, I think that maybe they do Shakespeare or not, but there's at least Sherlock Holmes and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of jokes that people use it for masturbation and then somebody has to clean the holodeck. But I think like entertainment, but obviously the serious solutions are training, like very like hazardous or like danger, like flying a plane or stuff like that. So yeah, as realistic as possible we are, and we hope like some countermeasures that you can't die there. So I guess that's the end goal for many people who are doing research on VR.
Okay, thank you so much. Tuuka, a big hand for the band. All right, so thank you so much. And okay, yeah, you can just pop that back on the table there. We're going to set up for the next talk. We're going to take about a 12-ish minute break, and then we'll be back. So drink, please. Drink for the love of God, drink. And whoa, for people at home, we're going to mute the stream because we're going to play, oh no, we're not going to play music. So I don't know, we just leave it on, whatever. Hey, okay. Welcome back. Just a reminder, we still have beakers at the bar if you want them. They are for sale. I mean, you can't just take them. You could take them and then leave money behind if you don't want to actually do a transaction. It's very weird. Anyway, moving on. Let's see the next slide. What is the next slide? It is, oh, okay, this is the one I didn't talk about at the beginning. So let me talk about a bit more about this now. Nerd Nite, this thing, has a lot of moving parts. And as lovely as our current volunteers are, who we had them put up their hands earlier, we're always on the lookout for more volunteers. These days, we especially need help in the sort of the areas listed on the card. A lot of these are back office positions, admin positions, because that's where a lot of the work that happens that doesn't necessarily isn't super visible here. We need help recruiting speakers, if anyone's good at that. That is an intense job. And we're definitely missing Amanda, because she did a lot of this stuff. We're also looking, so Bruce has been doing our social media posts. He's been doing an amazing job, but we need someone who can do a bit more. We need a bit more chatter, a bit more reposting things. And I think a lot of us just don't, that's not part of our personality, but if that's you, we're looking for you. I would love to have help designing the banners and the slides. We really need a video editor to help with the event trailer. That is actually more time consuming than it looks, I know. And you didn't actually get to see it tonight because it blew up, but and then we'd like to have someone to help edit the talks for YouTube after we've finished the live stream. We really need setup and takedown helpers. We've got less time somehow getting out of this venue, and we've got more stuff to do. So if anyone wants to do that, particularly people who can stay past 11 o'clock, I know last trains are nuts. By the way, check your last train by the end of the next talk. Just make sure, because you may have to run out at the very end. Since COVID, they've changed the last train times, right? So, and it's always, the last trains are always earlier going back towards Tokyo than if you're going south. And finally, we could use a sound mixer engineer just to sort of divvy up the jobs that Yoji is doing spectacularly tonight. He's basically running 5 stations there. We'd like to get it down to, I don't know, 3 would be nice, 4 even. All right, and of course, we're always looking for new speakers, so come and talk to us if you want to speak. Next slide, please. And isn't Selena wonderful? I should have said that with her cucumber. Right, really quickly, Nerd Nite Tokyo is produced by the Yokohama Theater Group, or YTG. YTG is a registered non-profit and is the beneficiary of any net income, if any, Nerd Nite is able to produce. So you're all supporting YTG by just being here tonight. Thank you. We're currently running a large fundraising campaign to help us recover from the pandemic. And if you're keen on theater stuff, we're also looking for volunteers, very similar positions to the ones I just listed for Nerd Nite. There's some overlap there. Come and talk to me, and I guess only me, if you're interested in that. Next slide. Oh, and the main feature. This is Jens. He's standing right beside me. He's not going to get up because that would be weird. He's already here, and he's got this wonderful machinery in front of me. He didn't submit a bio, and I couldn't get his old one, so I've made up one for him. Given how often I've seen Jens Wilkinson at Nerd Nite over the years, I know very little about him. The situation is not helped by the fact that I haven't been given a biography. So let me make one up. Jens is a longtime resident of planet Earth. He comes from an unspecified dimension residing in a diagonal position to our own. Over the years, he has embraced the human concept of sound, which he finds wondrous because his home dimension does not have waves of any sort. No waves, just particles. Tonight, he is here to talk to us about synthetic sounds and has promised to abduct no one. No one. We agreed on this. In all seriousness, Jens, you're great. I love seeing you at Nerd Nite, and I've been looking forward to your talk all month. Jen Wilkinson's, everybody!
Me? The sound is okay? Okay. So this is actually a talk that I've been threatening to give for a long time. And after Corona happened, I was really disappointed that we couldn't meet in person. But I really wanted to do this, and so I'm going to give this talk tonight. And as Andrew had said, I'm going to use this machine with lots of blinking lights on it, which is kind of cool looking, but I'm going to use that to talk. And I don't know, like some of the talks that people give here are about things which are really new, which are some things that we really don't know about, things which are just up and coming. Maybe like Avatar's a little bit like that. But I'm going to talk about something which is actually really kind of familiar to us and old, which is about sound. And is this, do I have to talk? Okay, okay. So specifically, what I'm going to talk about is synthetic sounds, is like creating sounds. But in order to like create sounds, you actually have to understand what sound is, and what makes a sound different from other sounds. And so the first thing is what is a sound? And actually, to me, it's kind of a really incredible thing to think of what sound is. So in a sense, sound is just differences in air pressure. So like we have, the air pressure is different in different places. And when we make a sound, it makes the sound become higher pressure, lower pressure, higher pressure, lower pressure. And it creates these waves in the sound. And our ears are these kind of really incredible instruments that they can detect those differences in air pressure and then make it into a sound. And so I can first start by making a sound, actually. So if I play this, okay, so you can hear a sound. So this is a typical synthesizer sound, and I can make it an octave lower. So when I start doing it like this, you could actually hear the wave, right? And if I make it go up, so eventually it actually becomes a sound. So we're going from hearing something which is just a bunch of clicks to actually hearing the sound. And you can hear that when you hear like a propeller of an airplane, where it starts flying, you hear the tung, 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 tung. But then as it's higher, it turns into a sound. And so in a sense, a sound is just a series of changes in the pressure of the air that makes us be able to understand, make that into a sound. And so what is this? Anybody? A microphone, okay. So what's a microphone? A microphone is a barometer. So a microphone is actually a barometer. It's a very, very sensitive barometer. So it's an instrument that detects very, very subtle changes in the pressure of the air. So it actually works just like a barometer, but we use that to be able to understand sound. So the barometer in your house is kind of similar to this. So then the next thing is, okay, so a sound is just a series of changes in air pressure. Okay, but then why can we hear different sounds as being different things? Why can we tell that a flute sounds different from a cello, or that the word eat sounds different from the word it? Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my iPad and this, and I'll make a couple of sounds. So the first thing is I'm going to do this. Oops, that's the wrong one. To user patch bank 1. Okay. So what sound is that? Okay, it's an organ. So it's one of the bottom right. So there's an organ. So the next one I'll do is, let me do this one. And I hope that it comes through. Can you hear it? Okay, marimba, nice. So the one on the top right. Okay, and then how about this one? Okay, so you have a cello, and then, well, there's only one left, so you can tell what that's going to be. So I go to timpani. Okay, so you hear those and you know what they are, and you know what they are from just hearing it. So then the question really is, then what makes them sound different? And basically, there's 3 things that make them sound different. So the first, obviously, is pitch, and okay. So how fast the sound the air vibrates gives us an idea of what pitch is. And then the second thing is the volume. So how much the air changes in pressure. gives you an idea of the volume. So if there's a big change in the pressure, then it makes it sound louder, and if there's a little difference, then it makes it sound loud. And then the really important one, which is kind of interesting, which we don't usually think about, is what's called timbre. Okay, so timbre is basically the quality of the sound. So some sounds sound darker, some sounds sound brighter, even if they're the same pitch. And I guess I can actually show you that by just making a wave. So this gives you an idea. So they sound different even though the pitch is the same. And so what actually is this? And this is something that I find really interesting because I'm not a keyboard player, I'm really a guitar player, and I played guitar since I was like 14 years old. And when I was in high school, I took a physics class where the teacher taught us about music. And I was really fascinated by the fact that somehow musical instruments work according to some kind of like mathematical ideas. And so what I have you here is, so this is what a guitar string looks like when you pluck a guitar string and it vibrates. So first of all, the first one on the top, sorry, I moved out of the light again, is the string is held at both sides, so it's going to vibrate up and down like this. And this is what creates the fundamental, so this is what creates the E sound or whatever that you make with the guitar. But at the same time, it's also vibrating like this, so with a note in the middle. And what that does is it makes a sound which is vibrating twice as quickly as the fundamental sound. And I don't know if anyone has actually studied music theory. What happens when you have a string that has the same tension, but you make it twice as long? Anybody know what that does to the sound? Okay, it makes an octave. Okay, so it makes an octave. So if you have a C like this, and you make the twice as fast, then it goes like that. Okay, and 4 times makes that. Then the next one is it's vibrating in 3 parts. So it makes a sound which is not twice, but which is 3 over 2, which is 3 times as much, sorry. So 3 times as much makes a sound, which is also important musically. I don't know if anybody knows the sound that you get when you take a tone and it vibrates 3 times as quickly. Anybody study music? It's a perfect fifth. Okay, so from here to, okay, it's a very, very nice sounding tone. So when throughout history, people have used things to make musical instruments, and making these instruments, they use these tones which are above them. So depending on how strong these tones are, you get different sounds. And so actually, just going back a tiny bit to like, the reason that I chose those 4 instruments that I chose actually has a reason. Generally speaking, when we talk about traditional instruments, there are 4 kinds of instruments, or they make vibrations in 4 different ways. So the sounds that we hear in our ears are created by the instruments, by something vibrating. And so obviously, probably the cello is maybe the most easiest to understand. So what vibrates in a cello to make the air vibrate so that our ears can hear it? Okay, it's a string, right? So basically the string vibrates, and the string vibrates, and the body amplifies some of the sounds. So the body acts as a resonator, which amplifies some of the sounds. But basically it's the strings which are vibrating. Okay, how about an organ? What vibrates in an organ? Maybe somebody said pipes, but it's actually not. It's the air. So it's the air inside the pipes which vibrates. And that's the same with all woodwind instruments. So like a flute or a saxophone or things like that. It's the air inside the pipe which is vibrating. So it goes kind of back and forth and creates pressure. Then a timpani or a kettle drum. The thing on the top. So it's a membrane. So there's a membrane over the top that sound. And then the last one is a marimba, right? So in this case, it's actually the wood block, the block of wood that vibrates itself. And so these are kind of the four categories. The human voice is also a sound. And the human voice probably, I think it works by like a reed instrument. So we blow air into these things in our throat which vibrate, and they vibrate the column of air, which then is in our throat and our nose and makes the sounds that we see. And then just to show you, different instruments actually sound different, partially because of the pitch, partially because of the amplitude of the sound, but a lot of it has to do with these what we call overtones. So the tones which are higher than the fundamental sound. And so, for example, we classify them generally as like the second harmonic, the third harmonic, fourth harmonic. And depending on the instrument, so like a flute, it very quickly drops off. Whereas an oboe, it goes on further. A violin actually goes even further. So the amount of contribution from each of the harmonics is different from instrument to instrument. And that sort of gives us a way of hearing. And so as I showed you before, a vowel sound, you can make, they sound different. They sound like a vowel, Okay. So these are actually, this is a filter which changes the amplitude of those harmonics. Okay. Now, the next thing that what I'm talking about basically is how we synthesize, how people synthesize sound. And I'm really interested in doing this. I really like to have this like instrument that I can sit here and play, and makes different sounds. So, as I told you, like throughout history, people use these different things, like they use strings or air or different ways. But another way that you can generate sound, which we started to understand after machinery was created in electricity, is that you can make sound using an oscillator. And this is a picture of this. So this is an instrument that uses oscillators basically to make sound. So it doesn't use a string or anything like that. It uses oscillators to produce different sounds. And people who study mathematics or science, we all study this. So what is this? So it's a sine wave, right? So a sine wave is basically the most easy kind of sound. So if you make a sine wave, it's a sound that has no harmonics. And I can make one, so I can give you a harmonic. Let's see. Okay, so here's a sound which is just a harmonic. And you don't really hear this in nature, but you've probably heard this somewhere. Where have you heard that? Okay. I was going to say a hearing test. They're like that, right? Because they use sine waves, because you just want to hear if the person can hear that specific sound, not like an element above it. So basically you can make a synthesizer using that, but it's not a very interesting sound. So there's some people who studied physics and probably know a lot more about this thing, but there's something called a Fourier transform, which means that if you have any series of sine waves, then it becomes another kind of wave, and you can tell what sine waves contributed to making it. So like if you have this wave and the double of it, and then this one, then it makes a wave that looks like this. And so these synthesizers use different kinds of waves to make different kinds of instruments. So for example, as I showed you, a sine is a very simple sound that looks like this. A sawtooth is the most buzzy of all the sounds. So you can go here. So when you hear a typical synthesizer sound is actually using one of these. If you wanted to make something which sounds a little bit less so, then you can use a square or a triangle sound, which are actually, they have the first, the third, the fifth, the seventh harmonics. They don't have the second, the fourth. And they kind of imitate what a flute with a closed pipe sounds like. So they sound a little bit less buzzy. So a little bit like that. Okay, so you get those kind of sounds. Okay, so you can actually use a different kind of wave to make the sound different. And then, of course, going on to the next one. Another thing that, as I told you, that makes a difference in the sound is the amplitude. So if I take, for example, the organ that I made before, and I could change this by making it so that it doesn't come out as strongly. Or when I stop playing it, it stays. So this instrument allows you to play with that, and so I can sort of go back to it, and you have these different buttons, and the different things on here allow you to make different sense and changes in the sound. So what I'm using right now is, oops, so now I have to go to my laser pointer. This section over here is what sets the amplitude of the sound. So this is what tells me that it suddenly comes in and stops or doesn't. And this section here is the oscillator. So this is what I was telling you before, where you can make the different sounds. And then this is really important. This is the probably most important key, which is called the cutoff. And this is resonance. And these ones allow you to change the timbre of the sound. So if I take a sound and it's actually what really makes that kind of synthesizer sound. Yeah, can do that. And then also there's on the left-hand side, which is called a low-frequency oscillator. And this is one that this controls how fast the sound changes, and then these decide what changes. Is it the amplitude or the pitch or the filter? So if I take the same sound, so I'll give you the sound, and then I'll put the filter on, and then I'll change the amplitude. So it's going up and down. This one makes a pitch change. The pitch is here. Make it faster. Okay. Things like that. So basically, this is like an instrument that isn't limited by the normal things that instruments make. So basically, you can make something that sounds like kind of any kind of instrument. And just for example, the first one that I did. So this is like a piano. So you can actually model different kinds of sounds by using these filters and making it different ways. And it's something that I find kind of really interesting to do. And so it's something that I like to do as a hobby. This isn't really that expensive. It's something fun to play with. But if you're ever interested in trying to do that, I was just going to say at the very end that you can also do this on your iPhone. So there's lots of synthesizers which are available for the iPhone, and you can just download them. A lot of them are even free, and you can play around with these things and try making your own sounds. So that's basically what I had to say. There's a couple other things that I could say if I still have time, but. Okay, cool. Okay, so any questions that you have?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Give him a hand. All right. I see Lewis has got a question. Yeah. I'll just hand it off. Thank you.
And I probably can't answer the questions.
Oh, again, I have the same self-serving question. Favorite Hollywood film that uses synthesizers?
I can't. I can't think of it. Okay, sure. Blade Runner. But it's the soundtrack. I mean, I love Vangelis's synthesizer playing, and that's really cool sounding. But it's not used it's used in the soundtrack of the movie, but I think a lot of movies do use it. So then it's just a question of like, whose music do I like in the soundtrack? But yeah, Blade Runner is great.
So you were talking about how the wave pattern produced by different kinds of instruments have different sort of shapes, and the word was timbre.
Right.
So when you record an orchestra where you have a lot of different instruments that are all producing different timbres, and then you reproduce that by playing the recording, is what's coming out of the speaker many different timbres and different patterns, or is it all converged into like a single one? And if it's the latter, does that mean like what you're hearing if you're in a room with an orchestra, is it actually fundamentally different from what you hear in a reproduced
Okay, so that's something that I probably should have emphasized more, and it's a really interesting question, and this is what's really kind of fascinating about this. And I was going to talk a little bit about how do we know that a sound is coming from one direction or another. So the thing that's really so impossible for me to understand is that when you're sitting in a room and an orchestra is playing, and each of the instruments is playing its own sound with its own harmonics, what comes into our ear is just a single sound. It's just a single pattern of changes in the vibration of the air. And there's no directionality of it. So when the air becomes more higher pressure or lower pressure, it's not coming from here, it's coming from here. It's only the sound that actually is just going. And somehow our ears and our brains can differentiate between 20 instruments in a different thing, although all we are hearing is just a single pattern of changes in the air pressure, because that's all that we can hear, because that's all that's transmitted. We can't actually hear a sound coming from a different direction, and I was maybe going to talk about that, but I didn't. The way that we can tell that a sound is coming from one direction or another is because this ear is hearing more of the dynamic, whereas this is duller because it's going through our skull, or it's a little bit, the volume is a little bit lower in this ear, and then therefore we can tell it. And so if a sound is coming from right in front of you or behind you, you actually can't tell the difference. So we have a reflex where we will shift our head slightly to change it so that we can actually hear the difference between the two. So that's really fascinating, because when it's coming out of a speaker, it's the same, that you don't actually hear the individual instruments. All you hear is a pattern of the air getting thinner and thicker and thinner and thicker. And somehow our brain figures it out from that, about what sound is being made. And it's really incredible that we can do it, actually. I don't know how we do it. But visual processing is also like that. Visual processing, we actually are able to to retrieve an incredible amount of information from something which is kind of simple in a sense, that we just get this flow of photons, or waves that go into that hit our eyes, and somehow we make sense of that. So, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, does it work? Hi, so this attack, decay, sustain, release thing.
Yeah.
Is that what happens when you press the key on the keyboard? I never really knew exactly. That's not the shape of one wave. It's not like the sawtooth or whatever is going to be replaced by this attack, decay, sustain, release. But it's if you press. Right,
that's right. It's an envelope which affects the sound. So you have the wave itself, and this modifies the wave if you want. So in other words, you can have a sawtooth sound. I can make it.
So where does the So is it like when you release the key, that's when the sustain ends and the release begins, and then if you make the release super long, then it keeps going for a long time or something?
That's right, exactly.
Okay.
That's
okay.
right. So it's all about how the keyboard reacts to the keys. So like if you want to play a guitar, then it should suddenly happen, and then it should release even before you let go of the key. So that's like the sustain, I guess. So it's all trying to like change how the key works to make it sound like different instruments. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
So why do vowels of different languages sound so different? Like, for instance, in Japanese, like it sounds like everything is happening around here, but in English, like it's more from down here.
Oh.
And then, so maybe it all comes down to the the vibrations and like that what you just talked about. But could you like fill the gaps between?
Yeah. So I'm definitely like not a specialist about like human voices, but my understanding is that human voice is very complicated. We use a lot of like different ways to like make sounds, and so different languages probably have slightly different ways of doing. Like some languages use the nasal cavity more than others, for example, to like modify the sounds, and I don't know. I think actually most languages do use vowels basically in the same way. The amount of like of size that like an ah sound, you're actually making a bigger cavity than like an e sound. You're making it smaller. And I think that basically like most languages do have that thing, but of course different languages use it in slightly different ways, and so we probably notice the difference between them rather than the fact that they all kind of sound quite similar, is my guess. But again, I'm really not a specialist about voice. So other people might know more about it than I do, I don't know. But thanks, yeah.
Thank you. So I guess in this talk, there's any variation due to, say, perception of sounds. So for example, we think about colors. Sure, I mean, they all have certain like wavelengths, but then, different cultures interpret different wavelengths in different ways.
Right.
Do sounds have something similar happening?
Yeah, so there definitely is an element of that. Okay, so there's certain things like, for example, the octave, right? So the fact that a sound which is twice the frequency of another one sounds to be like an octave higher, but the same sound, I think is pretty universal. Like everyone has that. If you kind of go into like deeply into music theory, you might have heard like of like an equal, so it's like a Pythagorean tuning versus like equal temperament, and there's like different ways of like tuning instruments and equal temperament, and there's like different ways of like tuning instruments, and if you do everything mathematically according to like Pythagorean theory, then you get it's really difficult to make a musical instrument that way. You can make a musical instrument that works in one key, but when you try to change the key to another key, it doesn't work anymore. So our instruments today are made in a way which is so that each the octaves are always the same between the different notes, and we're so used to that now that we hear that as natural. Where someone who is actually brought up with like Pythagorean tuning might not find that natural. So there's definitely some kind of a way that we get accustomed to like the way that sound is arranged, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Can we get a big hand for Jens? Thank you so much.
I'll go back to my other dimension.
Yeah, go back to your other. No, you're a resident of Earth. It's all right. You've got your residence card. Okay, we're going to take one last break. It's your last chance to get drinks from the bar. After this, the bar is closing. And yeah, we'll see you back in about 15 minutes. Thank you. Oh, apologies to people on the live stream. You guys can start going getting drinks. Apologies to people, hi, on the live stream. We're having some sound difficulties. We don't know what's going on. We're working on it. Sorry. Thanks. All right, the bar is going to be closing in a few minutes, so if you are thirsty still at all, if you're thirsty still, you might want to grab a drink because we got to close the bar when we start the next talk. So, if you're thirsty, and you should be, because we've had the air conditioner on, it's nice and dry in here. No? Okay. Okay. All right, while I'm talking, this is your last chance to get drinks while I'm talking here. So before we start up again with the next speaker, I want to give a big thank you to all our volunteers who are here tonight and those who aren't. I want to point out it's happened it's quite funny tonight. There's two Andrews and one Andrea and an Andrea. Like, it's very strange. But anyway, big thank you to Andrew Bruce Todd, who not only runs the bar, but does a lot of the back-end speaker hunting and organization. I want to make it very clear, we would not be standing here, we would not have returned from hiatus yet if he was not helping out, because I could not do any, I could not do this, we could not do this without him. Boop, 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 boop. Yes, and then so we've got Permanent Andrea, our bartender back there. Can you wave, Andrea, so they can see you? Wave, yay! Oh, someone put a light on, thank you. Yay, Andrea. Yes, and also we've got Coco and Rio here on the ground to help with setup and tear down, passing mics around and filling in wherever they are needed. It might be, it's Coco's birthday today. Coco, I didn't get you anything. I'm sorry. Happy birthday, dear Coco, happy birthday. And many more. Someone should have given me a heads up on that. I was blindsided. Also helping out throughout the space tonight is Temporary Andrea, here from Paris, flying out tomorrow and still landing a hand, and is helping me with cleanup because, yeah, like everybody else is running to catch, a lot of people are running to catch last trains. Thank you, Melvin. Where did you go? Our camera guy, stalwart camera guy. Thank you, Yoji, who ran our AV desk tonight. The problems that we were having tonight are not his fault. I tested everything, and our equipment has just blown up. I have no idea what's going on, but it's not him. He is doing the best he can over there, And it would be much worse if he wasn't there, trust me, because it would be me doing it. But he's running light, sound, and the live stream. So maybe someone come next month and volunteer to do one of those jobs so he doesn't do them all. And saving the best for last, I guess, maybe, because it's last. Selena on door, but she's not on door right now. She's like hugging Coco or something. Oh, she's back on door! Always giving you a warm welcome when you come. Big thanks to all the volunteers. Did I forget someone? I'm sorry. Did I fuck up and forget someone? I'm good? I'm good. The toilet light just went on. Is somebody, a volunteer hiding in there? Yes, anyway, thank you to all the volunteers. And next slide. Next slide. It's not going. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. It's a very old computer. Sometimes there's a bit of a delay. Makoto Mizukami is a full-stack software engineer, if he does say so himself, and a hobbyist researcher in the field of human information engineering, which hopefully he will explain, because I don't know what that means. He currently works at the software development tooling company, Circle. Is that Circle C or Circle CL? CI, okay. I wasn't sure if there's an I or a small L, Circle CL. Circle CI as Asia Pacific Regional Manager of Customer Engineering. You're engineering customers, not just humans, but customers. But he's not talking about any of that tonight, so we'll never find out what it is. Tonight he's going to talk about his strange and nerdy hobby, regale us. Makoto. Big hand for him, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. So, let me start this presentation. So first of all, let me introduce myself again. So I'm Makoto. I'm Makoto Mizukami. Let me talk about my background. So I was born in Kobe, graduated universities in Osaka, and now living in Tokyo. Just for your information, I have some background in wireless communication systems and also, as mentioned, human information engineering. So this is why, so today I will talk about mobile phones. Maybe you can hear something about human information engineering. As introduced, I am currently a manager for customer engineering team at Circle CI. So if you're using Circle CI, a development tool, and if you raise a question to support desk and say something like, hey, call your boss, then I will come there. Don't do that. Yes, I'm a kind of hobby full-stack engineer as well as hobby academic researcher. So if you, you Google my name, then you can find some weird, academic papers saying like attaching electrodes on head in order to change taste or invoking some virtual sense. That's me. And actually, for your information, there's another person, Makoto Mizukami, who is a real professional researcher. Don't confuse them. Anyway, so today's topic is worldwide mobile SIMs. A bit about mobile phone numbers I possess. So I'd like to emphasize this word bit because I have this disclaimer. I am not at the high end in this domain. I know there's a person who has some 2,000 phones, and that's not me. That's not me. I'm not joking. There is a person like that. And if any of you is a person like that, I'd say I'm sorry. I can't impress you. But if you think only one phone is enough, then this presentation is for you. So before I talk about my collection of SIMs, let me talk about what SIM is. So SIM stands for Subscriber Identity Module. It's not about something on Rosetta Stone, or it's not something about some videos played on computers. It's about a module to identify, subscribe, or I can tell medium on a modern phones. I would like to emphasize this modern word because, especially in Japan, SIM is introduced in a phone so-called third-generation phones. And if you were using second-generation phones, then you might remember there was no SIMs on those phones. And this medium is used to store your so-called IMSI. It's an International Mobile Subscriber Identity. It is an identity to identify your subscription, and also SIM contains some keys required for authentication. Then the important part is this IMSI and those keys on your SIM plays a very important role to locate where you are with your phone and identify you with your subscription in mobile networks. And mobile networks is a very complicated, complex network connected each other worldwide, and it's very kind of big challenge to locate yourself. I mean, locate you where you are. Maybe you are in the US, you're in Japan, maybe Antarctica, I don't know. But it's very important duty for mobile networks to locate yourself and then identify yourself in order to ring a specific phone correctly. So this is why we use this medium called SIM in order to identify you and locate you. Then, this is a brief list of my SIMs. So I think there should be some 10 SIMs. And let me quickly walk through them. So I have 5 Japanese SIMs, 3 coming from SoftBank, 1 coming from KDDI, 1 coming from Docomo, 3 SIMs for United Kingdom subscription, all from EE, 2 lines for Finland, coming from DNA, 1 line from France, 1 line from the United States, 1 line from Australia. I recently added it because I just came back from Sydney last week. And there should be 2 other SIMs that doesn't have any phone numbers, but that's dedicated for data communication. And another 3 SIMs to expire. And, oh no, I can't count them, but there are many expired SIMs. So, this is why my contact list look like this. So, I mean, actually, I have this contact list because I can't remember all of them. So, I mean, my phone has this contact entry to manage my phone numbers. Then, let me add some notes about my SIMs. So, most of them for prepaid subscriptions. And there are 2 reasons why I prefer prepaid subscriptions. First, there's no need for physical non-temporary residence address at an issuing country. So let's say I want to have a pay monthly SIM card, let's say in the United States. Maybe I will need a residential address in the United States. But as you know, I'm living in Japan. I'm living in Japan for some 30 years. I don't have any residential address in the United States. So this is why that, I mean, pay monthly subscription is not an option for me. The second reason, there's no need for payment methods local to an issuing country. Let's say I'm thinking about having a SIM card, paying monthly SIM card in the United States, then likely I will need a bank account in the United States or credit card in the United States. That I don't have, basically because I don't have a residential address in the United States. But anyway, that's a big problem if I want to, I mean, have a pay monthly type SIM cards. So these are the 2 reasons I prefer prepaid subscriptions. And actually, a bit derailed, this imposes a very big challenge when I'm living in Japan because, I mean, I said, except most of the Japanese ones. As you might know, in Japan, it's very rare that, I mean, to have a prepaid-based subscription. It's very limited. There are only limited number of offers available in Japan, basically because of its market situation that is very different from, I mean, especially from Europe. And also, it's related to law regulations in Japan. Then let me talk about why I have that, I mean, more than 10 SIM cards in my pocket. Not in my pocket right now. I just left at home because bringing some phones is too heavy for me to, I mean, hop on a very crowded Japanese train. So let me mention 4 reasons. So first, cheap. Second, fast. Third, local. And then fourth, just fun. So the first one is about cheapness. So as you might know, roaming is very expensive. Sometimes costs more than 10 times. Let's say, I mean, I pasted 2 screenshots coming from a mobile provider. The left one is coming from DNA, which is a mobile operator in Finland. let's say you're going to Finland or somewhere in Europe, and then the right-hand side, I put a roaming cost when you're using Y-Mobile coming from SoftBank. So let's say if we are assuming you're going to Europe, and then if you're using DNA, you have an option of unlimited 5G connection, unlimited connection for 30 days at around 30 euro. That should be around 4,000 yen, I think. Then, if you don't have that local SIM card, then what you have to pay is, on the right-hand side, it says 9 gigabyte, very limited amount of LTE connection. And it also says, interestingly, it says it's a campaign offer. So if it's not a campaign, you will only have 3 gigabyte of connection for 72 hours. I mean, that should be 3 days at 3,000 yen. So this is where I'd say it can be more than 10 times expensive. So definitely you want to go with this left option when you are going to Europe. So this is why I'd say roaming is very expensive and local SIM is very cheap. And if you're going abroad, then you will likely want to have a cheaper option by buying local SIMs. That's the first reason. The second reason is fastness. Basically, roaming is slow. There are two important reasons. So first of all, the radio connection can be limited to previous generations of technologies, at the moment 4G, or even worse, the 3G or sometimes 2G. Obviously, if you're connected by 2G, that can be untolerably slow. And the second thing, which is maybe a new thing for you, is that your traffic will likely be routed via your home country. So let me explain about that. So let's say you have a Japanese phone, and then let's say you're going to the United States. Then, obviously, you can use your phone. But in the background, what happens is, if your UE stands for user equipment, that is your own phone, it's physically connected to an e-Utron, that is a kind of base stations available in the United States. And by the way, e-Utron is available in this figure, left bottom corner of this figure. And even if your phone is connected to the local base station, your service is most likely provided by your home network. So let's say you can see a circle called labeled services. That is a kind of portal for the internet. So when you bring your phone to the United States, then your phone will be connected to the local e-Utron that is within the visited network, but actually that is connected to, let's say, a SoftBank or Docomo or KDDI, a Japanese network, and any traffic will be routed to those Japanese operators and then going somewhere, the final destination. So this is why roaming will be very slow. I mean, every time you make any communication, that will be routed to Japan and then go somewhere. And as you know, Japan is very far away from the United States. Even you're using the most cutting-edge communication technology, it would take more than 100 milliseconds to just send a single bit. So this is why the connection can get slower. Then the third reason is to feel the local thing. I mean, as I mentioned, roaming traffic will likely be routed via your home country. So let's say you bring your Japanese phone to the United States, and then your phone works as if you are in Japan. That means even though you're going to the United States, your phone is not feeding the atmosphere of the United States. Then, when you buy local SIMs, then that gives you local access of their issuing country from anywhere. So obviously, when you put the United States SIM in the United States, then the phone works as if you are in the United States, obviously. And then more importantly, when you bring back your US SIM to Japan, it still enables you to connect to the United States network. Let's say this is because let's say, in that scenario, the visited network will be a Japanese network like SoftBank, KDDI, Docomo. Then home network will become like Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T. So this is why, I mean, the opposite thing can happen, and then you can feel the local atmosphere of the United States, even in Japan. So this is why I'd say, in order to feel some local atmosphere, buying local SIM is very solid solution for you. Then the fourth reason, as you know, it's just fun. Just fun. No mobile operator is same. So this is why using different operators, buying different SIMs is very interesting. If you are thinking about some, let's say, fixed internet connection, and if you're thinking about changing your internet service provider, then that's a very similar feeling. I mean, you might want to change mobile operators just to see something new. So historically, I started to buy local SIMs for its cheapness. I mean, I had a chance to travel abroad when I was a student, and obviously I was a student, I have no money, so this is why I had to seek a cheap option. But now, because it's just fun. Yep. Then, let me talk about some challenges to collect those SIMs and maintain those SIMs. I would say there are three major challenges. So first of all, it's logistics. So in other words, how do you buy or how do you carry your SIM is the problem. Let's say, especially for buying SIM can be challenging. And there are two options to buy local SIMs: buy locally, by going there, visit a phone shop there, and just buy it. That's pretty solid, but you need to go there, and very importantly, you have to speak local language there. Yeah, actually, I have an experience to buy a SIM in France, and yeah, I went to phone shop, at the time Orange, I mean, formerly France Telecom, and then I had to speak French in order to buy a single SIM card. Yep, that's a very interesting experience. And the other option is buy internationally over the internet. So let's say I want to buy a French SIM, and then maybe I can make an order over the internet and then get it and delivered over an international courier. But there are challenges. So if you buy it from online outlet of operators, so let's say if I buy a SIM by Orange from Orange, then there is a big problem because in most cases, mobile operators don't ship SIMs internationally. So I have to input a local address in France, which I don't have. Then you might think about buying SIMs over Amazon or etc. That should be a reseller, but then there's another problem. Genuineness can be a question. Yep, you can buy mostly any SIMs over the internet. I often see many SIMs are available on Amazon, but there's indeed scams. So it's a kind of difficult to distinguish which is genuine and which is a kind of scam. And also, even if you're buying SIMs from a genuine reseller, there will be a good chance that your SIM card is not validated correctly. That means you will just lose the money. So this is why logistics is one of the biggest major challenge to buy and collect SIMs internationally. Second challenge, activation. So in many cases, so first you have to activate your SIM card, or otherwise the SIM card is just an electrical circuit. But in many cases, activation needs to be done in the issuing country. So let's say actually I did it last month when I went to the United States. So I purchased a prepaid phone by Verizon, but I couldn't activate it in Japan. I had to go to the United States in order to just activate. And it's very important that if your SIM card is kept inactive for a certain period, your SIM card can be invalidated forever. So this is why this can be a kind of strict constraint. Actually, it happened to my Verizon SIM card, so this is why I had to discard it, actually, seriously. And in some cases, you also need a local payment card just for activation. So let's say, actually, it happened for that Verizon phone, and the system, I had to call an automatic system to activate my SIM card, and it says, please input your zip code by 5 digits. As you know, I'm living in Japan. I don't have zip code. Postal code in Japan has 7 digits. How it can work? No. So this is why activation can be a big challenge. Then the third challenge is maintenance. So once you happily activated your SIM card, then you will have to maintain it, or otherwise it will expire. You will lose your collection, I mean. And in order to maintain your SIM cards, basically you have to make calls regularly. Actually, I do it monthly, and make payments regularly. I do that almost every half year, I think. And yeah, actually, I mean, if you are happy to making, nonsense calls to automated systems, that's okay. If you are okay to input your credit card every half a year, that's okay. But let's say if your operator doesn't provide service in your home country, actually that is the case for my SIM card from Orange that can't be used in Japan. It says out of range thing. Then obviously you can't make any call. Then it will pose a challenge to maintain the SIM card. Let's say if your operator doesn't accept international payment card, then you won't be able to make payments regularly. That means the operator might think, oh, this person won't pay for us, then let's just expire this SIM card. Then that's the end for your SIM card. Then the third option can happen. So if your operator doesn't allow access to your mobile account over the internet from your home country, then that is another problem. So let's say you want to make a call. In order to make a call, you have to top up your mobile account. But then even though the operator accepts your, let's say, international credit card, if the operator doesn't allow access you to the top-up page from your home country, then there is no way to top up your SIM card. Then you can't do these two things. That's another obstacle. So this is why I'd say, once you get SIM card, you enjoy the first start, then there's another kind of difficult thing to do with your collection of SIMs. All right, I think I talked too much, so let me wrap up. So I talked what is SIM and my mostly prepaid SIM collections, and I talked why I started collecting those SIMs for reasons of cheapness, fast, local, and that's fun. And then I also talked about challenges of collecting and maintaining those SIMs. So that's all for now. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll have your questions.
Hello, is this thing on? I feel like the school principal. It is on. All right, give it a second. Wow, it never ends tonight, does it? Are you sure it's spotty about that? Yeah, it's fine. I can see the thing is blinking. It's getting a signal. What the devil? Hold on, let me turn it off. I totally get something not to do that. Okay, so this is the only. Can we just use our big voices? Yeah, use our big voices. Apologies to people on the live stream. Oh, you're getting screwed every which way. James, why don't you go first? You're right here.
So I'm trying to ask like a really negative question. But when I go abroad, I just use Wi-Fi and don't bother because generally speaking, all the people who I really need to talk to, I use Line or FaceTime or something or Messenger or some other way that uses the internet. And so actually, I keep a phone number because I want to have a phone number so that I can write down forms and things like that. But I actually really don't use
Yeah, actually, I have the very same feeling. So this is why I don't use these phone numbers for, very serious way. I'm just keeping them just because it's fun.
Sorry, Makoto, next time someone asks a question, just for the people at home, can you repeat it back before you answer it?
Okay.
I can't hear it. All right, Tuuka's had his hand up that whole time. I don't want it to fall off, so you should go next.
Yeah, hi, thanks for the talk. I'm from Finland and I also have a DNA cast in regards to I'm curious, why do you have Finnish SIM cards? I mean, do you have a lot of business going to Finland or just you use them for the European travels?
Good question. So two guys are saying, first of all, he has a same DDN card, and he's asking why I have it. That's a good question. So yeah, first of all, I had a chance to visit Finland. So this is why I had a chance to buy a first DNA SIM card. That's one reason. The other reason, maybe it's a very interesting information for all of you. Actually, buying prepaid SIM cards in Finland is quite easier than any other European country or compared to the United States. So there are two very notable things. So first of all, basically, if you buy a SIM card in Finland, there is basically no need to show your passport or show your, certificate for permanent resident address in Finland. So this is why, actually, I can buy DNA SIM cards from verkkokauppa.com, the very famous online store in Finland, and that online retailer can ship abroad those SIM cards. So this is why I first had a chance to have them, and then I have a way to maintain them. I hope that answers your question.
I have two questions. The first one is what do you think about eSIMs? Are all your cards physical or do you have eSIMs?
Okay, so the question is whether I have an eSIM or not. Then the answer is yes. So I have this phone. For this phone, I have two SIMs, one for physical SIM and the other for eSIM. Yep, basically I'm very open to eSIM. That gives an option for me to, conveniently get a new SIM. But on the other hand, at the current situation, eSIM is not as convenient as possible. Let's say if you want to go with prepaid options, actually there are very limited options that is available by eSIM. So this is why I have actually two SIMs. One for the main one is by eSIM, and the other backup phone number is powered by physical SIM because I'm okay to switch backup phone numbers, and if I go abroad with prepaid options, I very likely switch the physical ones.
Well, we got a microphone now.
So I'm here in Japan just for 2 weeks, and I got the SIM card because I think that Wi-Fi isn't enough, and I have used it. And the question is, this SIM card I got didn't have a telephone number attached, and I haven't seen that before. What is the difference between a SIM card with a telephone number and this kind of SIM card that I just had data on it?
Good question. I'm thinking about how I should respond. First of all, I think I should mention when you install your SIM card into your phone, it will establish basically two connections, one for phone calls and the other for data connection. And your SIM card without phone number means that will have only one connection with data. Yes, even in GSM, you will have two connections by default, and if you're using data-only SIM, then you will have only one connection. And yeah, a bit of interesting is, if you have a phone number, then you will have to show your certificate of local addresses in Japan, if I remember correctly.
I wanted to say I apologize on behalf of the United States of how terrible our ability to acquire a SIM is. However, there is an exception in the international terminal of the Chicago airport, an O'Hare, there's a very small box on a wall that will in fact sell you prepaid SIMs. This is not my question. This is just the only airport in all of the United States that I've been to that actually sells SIMs. My question, excluding Helsinki, most easy place to acquire a SIM that you've traveled to?
That's a good question. Let's see. Good question. The most, easiest city to buy a local SIM, you mean? Good question. That's a very good question. But I think that will be London. Two reasons. So I can speak a bit of English. That means I can communicate with, staff at the phone stores. And also, as you may know, actually the United Kingdom has multiple operators with tons of MVNO. That means there are many outlets in the center of the London city. That means I have many options. I can easily go any of them to just get one SIM. And also I can tell, I personally feel basically the European region is very popular with prepaid offers for some reasons. And then United Kingdom is one of countries among the European region and where English is dominantly spoken. This is why I say London can be a good city for purchasing local SIMs.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess that my question now is going to sound a bit boring, but is there something like a table or a list where you have the most wanted SIM card in the world? Like, this is like, the holy grail. If you can get this, or, the most difficult to get, for this you will have to own a house and, a car. So, is there something like that? What's the most difficult SIM card to get in the world?
Good question. So, actually, this list can be used for the purpose. So, for those SIMs I am successfully maintaining, that should mean those numbers are very easy to acquire and then easy to maintain. And those numbers you can see in this expired list, then that would mean that, I can obtain them somehow, but it's a bit difficult to maintain. Actually, I can point out an example of Singtel. If you go to Singapore, and at the airport, you will be able to buy a prepaid SIM card for Singtel. But if I remember correctly, that is strictly limited to last for only 2 weeks. That means there is no option for me to extend that expiry. So that means I'd say that's one of very difficult SIM cards to maintain. And of course, sorry for mentioning that. And I'd say the United States is one of very difficult country to buy a new SIM card and maintain them.
All right, so you've been intriguing me from the start of your presentation. I know the word human, I know the word information, I know the word engineering. I don't know what all of those combine. Could you please let us know what that is?
Okay. Could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so what is human information engineering? I know each word, but I don't know what are those combined. Thank you.
I see. Yeah, that's a good question. Human information engineering is a kind of artificial word created by my professor, I imagine. And it's a kind of, how can I say, cross-disciplinary research region where we focus on, of course, information engineering, and also we cover something like neuroscience, because we are basically studying human cognition or reception of stimuli, and also thinking about output made by human. So this is why this domain has the 3 keywords. So human, we are thinking about human perception and also human behavior, and then we are regarding those perception and process of those perception and behavior as information, And then we are thinking about take advantage of those nature in an engineering way by, like, say, actually, VR is a good example. So this is why I'm very excited to see presentation by Tuuka. And yeah, I think that answers your question.
Very last question. All right, so, okay. So how do phone companies sort of restricts the activation geographically? And perhaps more interestingly, have you considered anything or tried anything to defeat the geographical limit of activation?
That's a good question. Yeah, actually, I was defeated. So this is why basically I will go those local locations just to activate my scenes. So this is why I basically refrain from buying scenes where I won't go.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's very difficult to circumvent this activation limitation.
Okay, so it's not something that you can easily fool the.
Basically, no.
Okay, so, yeah.
All right, hand me that mic back. I got to do the outro. So can we get a round of applause for us? Round of applause for Makoto. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was, wow. Everybody wants to ask him a question. You can.
I'm sorry.
That was you. Okay. Yeah. Don't stand in front of the speaker. Good safety tip. I hope everybody's still alive. Okay. Yeah, we're just wrapping up. Next show, remember, November 18th. Back here, we're here for November 18th and December 16th. Those dates are booked. Beyond that, who knows? If you know a place that would take us in, that would be nice. Any place. And yeah, I think thank you for coming. And there was something else I needed to say. Right. Yeah, thanks. That's it. Please check your last trains if you're standing around chatting, because they are earlier than they were before COVID. And if you're going back towards Tokyo, they're probably earlier than you think. Okay? All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Have a great night, and take care. Bye. See you next time.